Welcome to Joshua 2415 Outdoors, proudly in partnership with Christian Bow Hunters of America.
Woo! Hello and welcome back to another episode, y'all. I tell you what, I have been on the bass monster quest for, it's going on 5 days now.
Well, we're going to put you on it today.
I hope so. I'm ready to get a big one. I've fished Kentucky Lake the last 4 days, and I can say that at least I've caught one fish every day, at least one fish, some days two, but no more than that. And all the bass have been either 2.5 pounds-ish roundabout or less. So the quality's not bad, but it's not as good as it could be.
Well, it's been over 30 years since I fished the pond that we're going to.
Daggone.
That does not mean that other people have not fished it, but 30 years.
You mean tell me the last time you fished that pond, I was pretty much being born? I was 3 years old?
It's over 30 years, so you may not even
have been born.
But I caught some 7-8 pound bass in this pond back when I used to fish this pond. So, and I've heard from other people that they have also caught some very good bass in this pond and have always put them back. And so we're gonna go see.
I'm looking forward to it. Anytime we get to spend time in the outdoors together and go fishing or hunting or whatever it is,
or just spend together.
Yeah, I'm all about it. Let's do it. All right, so in this podcast, we'll discuss kind of how our fishing trips have been going as of late. I'll explain a little bit about my 5 days at Kentucky Lake and what 4 days at Kentucky Lake and what I've been using and what I've been catching stuff on. And, I got to be honest with you. I think because I've tried a number of different things from spinnerbaits, chatterbait to swim baits, soft plastics, crankbaits, you name it. I've tried it just about. Top water even also. I've covered just about every level of the water from top to mid to bottom with many different lures. And I think honestly, I've caught so far 6 fish in 4 days. And all bass, but one sauger and a bluegill. I'm sorry, a bluegill. I snagged a bluegill.
Yeah, you did slaughter a bluegill.
So I would say, honestly, I think it's all been just throwing it in the right spot at the right time and getting reaction strikes. Because when I throw any one of those baits out there multiple times, it doesn't produce. It's just the one time I get lucky and get that strike and pull them out of there. But other than that, I've not yielded much on one particular bait. So I can't name one bait that I'd say, yeah, this is the go-to bait. I've just been switching it up and getting reaction strikes.
I feel like a lot of, especially fishing big water like that, you got to be able to key in on what kind of location the fish are at.
Yes.
Whether they're up on the banks or whether they're out. I mean, they could be out off of a channel that you can't even get to from the back.
Exactly. But that's the one thing I will say. The key areas I've been honing in on and finding them have been close to vegetation and closer to the bank.
Yeah.
So they're still, I've seen, put my polarized sunglasses on, and I was looking, because Kentucky Lake, the water right now is pretty clear. It's just slightly murky. It's visible enough that you can use natural colors and not have to worry about chartreuse or anything. You can use more natural colors. And I've been throwing it in there, and I've seen the bass up closer to the bank patrolling the bluegill beds, because bluegill seem to be still spawning. And I've seen them patrolling around the banks. So
I think you just hit it right there. I think you just summed up the issue with not catching a lot of fish.
They've got food. They've got a food source.
No, you're assuming that since the water clarity is where you can use more natural colors, you're not throwing the bright gaudy colors.
See, that's not the case at all. I'm just saying you can. I've tried everything.
So
I've tried chartreuse. Yes, I'm throwing chartreuse. Okay. I took a chatterbait with the skirt colors were bright orange, green, and white. And I didn't have any luck particularly on that one. I did catch one, probably around the first one I caught. I don't know. We have to go back and check the video. I did catch on a chartreuse and white chatterbait. And I pulled it out of vegetation, near vegetation, and close to the bank. And I have tried many different colors because I don't believe that you have to throw. Okay, so the more I spend time out there, the more I think, you hear, not dogging anybody or anything like that by any means. I'm just saying you hear podcasts or watch videos or whatever on this does this and this does that, this bait, this color. You just don't know until you get there and you start trying different baits.
No, ultimately you got to put it in front of the fish.
Yeah, it's hard to really determine. Yeah, I understand certain conditions do fare well for certain baits, but ultimately, if they're not interested, it doesn't matter what color you throw at them. If they're not hungry and they're not interested, you've got to find something that piques their interest and put something in front of them that's different.
Yeah.
And and present it as something that's enticing to them. Otherwise, you're just not going to catch any fish. And that seems to be what's been happening to me. I've been able to somehow locate them, one at least, or two, and get a reaction strike. I don't think they're striking purely out of, hey, I'm hungry or anything like that, because I will throw in the same spot multiple times.
Yeah.
And eventually they just get agitated and they hit it.
Like, I'm going to kill this, so it'll shut up.
Yeah. So, anyways, and you've been bluegill fishing lately, and you had a pretty successful day. Caught some little bass, caught some big bluegill. I mean, I would consider those to be on the monster level bluegill.
Yeah, those are for around Southern Illinois. Now, I don't know. I have never bluegill fished in Kentucky Lake. I know that Kentucky Lake has something called shell cracker, and I think we have some places that have shell crackers. Over here, Mermet Lake, I think, has shell crackers, which is what I think that is what I always heard as a red ear. I'm not even for sure, which is a much bigger bluegill type fish,
a hybrid bluegill.
But for a just regular bluegill, the bluegill that I've been catching are really good bluegill that you got to stretch your fingers to get around them to palm them. Just really good. And I love catching those big bull bluegill on.
And they put up quite a fight too.
Oh yeah. 5.5 foot ultralight with 6 pound line.
Yeah. You're in for you're in for a fight. Yeah, I was quite impressed with the bluegill you were catching. They were definitely easily hand size and a little bit bigger. Some of them, I think the last one, at least on the video that you caught, was bigger, way bigger than your hand.
Yeah, and I have before in that pond, I have caught bigger bluegill than that in that pond. And I've caught a bunch of bluegill in that pond over the years. But I had, and the funny thing is, I fished that pond for probably 5 or 6 years. Bass fished that pond before I ever had the notion to throw a ultralight jig into that pond, because I was always catching big bass in it, and most of the time I wouldn't even carry a ultralight down there. And there was one day that I was down there, and the bass were kind of slow that day. And I thought, well, maybe with the bass being slow, if I'll throw some small jigs, maybe the bass will, start hitting on that. And I like catching bass on ultralight too. As long as you've got your drag set right, I can still get a 5 or 6 pound bass in most of the time on 6 pound line. If you just play them, and let them, you can't horse them. Like when I bass fish, I like to fight them. I don't like to just let them just play.
I don't like to let them wear out. I like to muscle them on in there.
Yeah. But that day, I just thought, well, I'll switch it up and I will try some small jigs. And man, I went to catching these just plate-sized bluegill, and I was blown away that over the years that I had never caught one on a crankbait. You know, I caught a lot of fish in there on a crankbait, and those bluegill were plenty big enough to have been hitting a smaller size crankbait, and I had never caught a bluegill out of it up to that point. And still to this day, I have not caught a bluegill unless I was using those 16th ounce size jigs in that pond. But when I put those jigs on, that's a state pond there too. When I put those jigs on, man, I could just wear them fish out in there.
Yeah. I could tell you were at one point, you caught like 3 in a row. Yeah. Well, one of them was a small bass, but,
it didn't even really count as a bass. It was not really any bigger than the
lure.
Than the lure. It was a 2-inch curly tail jig, and it wasn't much bigger than that. That looks like rain.
Yeah, but that's not bad. Well, I tell you what, I have been. We're on the road, by the way. That's why you may hear stuff that you're like, what? We're on the road heading to State Pond right now. We're going to fish.
And we have storms on the way, so we really don't know how long we've even got.
So anyways, I've been so addicted to bass fishing since spring got here. I was so dead set I was going to go turkey hunting this year, and the bass just took me away from it. I've been fishing. I missed spring turkey hunting to go bass fishing. I'm not ashamed, and I don't regret it.
No, you shouldn't be, because I tell you, there's a fella just needs to find what he likes to do and go do it. And
I've been having a blast.
What's really excited me this year is, other than, you know, we joke all the time about me just being a catfisherman, but before I ever started catfishing, I was a bass fisher.
Yes, and I'm sorry. On that note, I should go ahead and say you're welcome because I got you back into it, and now you realize how much more fun it is to bass fish and all that.
Okay. I am enjoying bass fishing again. I think a lot of it is because I've got this new shoulder, and I'm able to throw a little more than I was, and I'm having a good time doing it. Now I love the bluegill fish or just ultralight fish in general, whether it's bass or crappie, bluegill, whatever. But I have really enjoyed the bass fishing that I have done so far this year, and caught some really good bass. I wish I'd have videoed the day that I went to that pond and I caught one that weighed almost 5, and then 2 of them that were between 3.5 and 4.
When was this?
I sent you pictures.
Did you? There's a deer right out there.
Yeah, this is where when I first started deer hunting when I was 13. All of this in Shawnee. This is Shawnee on both sides. This is where I started hunting.
Really?
This is where my dad and my grandpa hunted. This is where I started.
There's does just popping out everywhere. That first one looked like it could have been.
That first one was a big body deer.
Yeah. It could have been a buck without his antlers, right? No.
I've seen several bucks already that's got 6, 7 inches, 8 inches of horn.
Oh, here. Now, those deer will help us lead into talking about deer and getting ready for the upcoming season, which I'm also looking forward to.
Up here. I plan on hunting up here some. There is, if I've got my hip by then, I do.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get, for anybody that doesn't know, I'm looking at having to have a hip replacement. Really having a lot of trouble walking. It has affected things so much that I did not shed hunt this year, and that has always been one of my favorite things to do. But it hurts so bad to walk. I'm just very limited. It's very debilitating, and very depressing, to be quite honest about it. But
yeah.
if I can get this, I want to get this done as early in the year as possible to make sure that I've got enough rehab where I can get to deer stands this year and be able to bow hunt.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to going with you.
Well, I'm going to bow hunt no matter what.
Yeah, and doing that again. But you don't have to be in a stand to bow hunt necessarily.
No, I just prefer.
Yeah. That's personal preference. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead. This was going to be a short one. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and end the podcast here. And you know, as always, we thank you all for listening. We thank you for tuning in and liking and subscribing and all that to the YouTube channel. And just I hope you're getting a lot out of these. We love and enjoy putting all this content together for you. So
I think we get more out of it than anybody.
I do. I love doing it. I really do. I love doing the podcast. I love doing the YouTube channel and putting out content and editing videos and editing podcasts and putting it all out there. I love it.
I'm glad you like all the editing part because I don't know anything about that. And as long as you're good at it, I'm just going to.
I'm learning.
I'm learning the fun part.
I'm learning how to make it more engaging, and so hang in there with the videos. We're figuring it out a little bit at a time. Anyways, hey, if you would please check out the affiliates. They will be in the description, and check them out, and click on them and maybe make a purchase if you want to. Consider that. Again, we appreciate you. God bless y'all. Have a good one.
God bless.